we all could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Chair Wrench is excused. Vice Chair Malecki.
Here.
Susan Lance, present. Alderwoman Day, absent. Commissioner Remington.
Here.
Commissioner Stanley.
Present.
Non-voting member ex officio Michelle Runty, absent. Kevin Schlater. Okay, and Dale Borchert.
Here.
Okay. And City Engineer Glenn Morrow.
Here.
And Principal Planner Marion X.
Here. If you want, we can do the citizens' comment period. Does anybody have anything? Come on up.
Your name and address, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Tina Verdugi. I currently reside at 4421 West Central Avenue, but I've been a Franklin resident since 1969. Is it for short people? Okay. Do you want me to repeat that? Please. Okay, so I said I reside at 4421 West Central Avenue. Okay. So in December, I submitted a request to reserve pickleball courts at Pleasant View, and at the January meeting, the request was denied. I unfortunately didn't know that I was on the agenda, so I wasn't able to come and plead my case in person. When my request was denied, it was suggested to me to contact the Recreation Department to investigate the possibility of starting an additional group. I contacted Leah Voss at the Recreation Department and asked her if we could add an additional session for advanced players. She told me that unfortunately she's unable to get any more courts to run any additional sessions. I was also told that a reason for the denial was that there has to be courts available for public community use. When I submitted my request, I submitted my dream request that we would get 4 courts reserved for Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I also said we would love anything. So if you could only give us 3 courts, or if we could only have one of those nights, we would love that as well. So any accommodation would be appreciated. And that would leave courts open for community use. I also want to point out that as of June 1st, there will be 6 additional courts at Fleming Park. And of course, you know there's going to be the 10 additional courts at the library. So as of June 1st, there'll be plenty of open courts for community use. And my understanding is the Parks Department gets no revenue from the Recreation Departments for the pickleball program. So if you charged a nominal fee for reserving the courts, like $50 a night, you would have revenue that you could use to upkeep the courts or for people that have to take care of the reservations, etc. So I understand that you may not want to start a precedent of people reserving the courts for private use. However, I think that precedent was already set last summer when one gentleman was able to reserve the courts for Wednesday nights. Of course, if you don't want to reconsider my request, I respect that. But I also respectfully request that you're consistent when other people ask to reserve courts. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? No? All right, we close the citizens' comment period then. Approval of the minutes, approval of regular minutes for January 8th, 2024.
I'll make the motion. I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you. Since we have quite a few people here, did we want to go to the new business?
Don't we all have to say aye?
Oh, sure. I guess we all have to say aye.
Everyone approves?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, okay, aye. Thank you.
So you're asking about taking the agenda out of order. I would suggest some of the discussion at the previous meeting was about the pickleball reservation policy, and so you do have an item on your agenda this evening about an overall policy for the commission's approach to pickleball reservations, if you wanted to take that item and then maybe look at the new requests, that might
Sure.
be constructive.
Sure. So do we want to do that right away then, you guys? Yes?
Sure.
Okay.
So at your previous meeting, we had a general discussion about the types of reservations that are coming in for these types of facilities, as has been noted many times. The city is not currently charging a fee for reservations, and then we've been receiving complaints about the availability of facilities. So we're in the process of researching permitting options for this, but the suggestion was made that pickleball and tennis court facility reservations be restricted to just public groups. And so you didn't take an action to that effect. So if you wanted to do that this evening or have a bigger conversation about it, it's back on your agenda again. I provided a suggested motion based on the discussion from last session. So that might help you guys to kind of think through what you actually want to take as a decision, but acknowledging that there is significant demand for these facilities and that last year we were getting a lot of concerns and feedback about availability. This might be at least an interim action to take until we can figure out a real permitting process.
Okay. Do we want to vote on that then? Yes?
What
On-
enough courts now, though?
Not really, no, I don't think so. When are those courts are supposed to be done in what month?
June or
June? Yeah. Well, I think this is a kind of an important vote to do because we've been doing this for a long time now and we haven't made any decisions on this, so I think it would be wise to take a vote tonight.
Yeah, so just in terms of the number of requests that are currently, and we haven't closed them, the previous decision was to close them in March. So you've approved the use of Ken Wendell for youth tennis, Vernon Barg for pickleball, both through the rec department. You tabled an item about Franklin High School's request for a student group, and then there's 3 new requests this evening on your agenda. It's entirely possible that you'll get more, and at this point it's starting to cover most mornings for the facilities that are available.
Right.
Is it open for discussion then at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the previous season reservations, like prior to me becoming a commissioner, we did make reservations for citizens, but the demand for pickleball, I don't think was at the peak that it is right now. So speaking on fair and equitable, I'm not sure, have we ever solicited this reservation process to come to the board meeting and make your request for public land use like this? I know that we put out the pavilion use in that flyer that goes out to all citizens in the city, but has it ever been said that that's how you would make a reservation for court use?
There hasn't, so this practice started essentially with the rec department's request, and then we got follow-up requests from other residents. And in the absence of a policy, we just put them before the board. The reason that those requests have come to the Parks Commission, the rentable facilities are the baseball diamonds, and you can only reserve them for a limited number of dates and times, and you can only do that in person up to 2 weeks in advance. So people are sort of coming in and making the reservation every couple of weeks. The board has discussed changing those rules to some extent, but right now there's also the broader question of like how all of that permitting occurs. It's happening on paper at the clerk's office. You must come in person. They don't take reservations over the phone, et cetera. And then currently there was no system for multiple dates, so things with multiple dates typically come to this commission. For example, the concerts in the park. So this being for a facility long-term over multiple dates, that's partly why the wordage in the suggested motion is about like how many dates is this really for. So because it would make sense to potentially still allow for like single date reservations if you're having a fundraiser or something like that. But
And is that
that what the second bullet is referring to, would be a tournament, or like you said, a single? Okay.
Now, the commission did make a request for a pay-for-reservation software program, and then that was denied through the Common Council, right? That the IT infrastructure wasn't going to be put in place for having a system for the city to use, like the rec department uses. Because currently, they're the only ones that have a pay-for-play kind of sport.
To just
potential.
clarify, it wasn't denied. It was not included in the 2024 capital budget due to turnover in my department. The person who was crafting that left the city, so
So not funded.
not funded. It wasn't
Is
even
the official way to
proposed.
say
Yeah.
we're not going to have that this year, but our intention is to put that in for the city, and that way the baseball diamonds and the pavilions and then potentially these courts would be reservable.
Right, a draft capital sheet for that was submitted a couple weeks ago. So,
For the software?
yeah, for software for 2025. Right now, it's in the very preliminary stages. We have to reconstruct some of the bid process that we went through, the request for qualifications, but the sheet's already been submitted, so it's in progress. So.
And that would be handled here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did have a conversation as well with the rec department about doing a permitting process through them. Leah's here and can respond to any additional questions about that, but the short answer is that it wouldn't be appropriate to run the city's own reservation processes through the rec department.
Okay. So do we have a motion then? For the pickleball?
For this, as it
Yes.
stands like that?
As it stands, pickleball tennis courts facilities are not reservable by the general public. Courts will be available on a first-come, first-served basis. League reservations request organized group play must come from an established community organization whose members is open to the general public. Court facilities may be reserved for private events such as pavilion rentals subject to approval by Parks Commission.
Court facilities may be reserved for private events. I think we had said we were going to put into that single use, right? Special events for the,
Yeah, so these are suggested motions. The effort here was to like tie it to a rental, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
so we're trying to, another agenda item that we have is to make a city ordinance for not being able to use the pavilions without paying for the use of them, because it gives us some insurance for damage that happens. So if we're not having any kind of like pay for use, we don't get that allowance, right? For, or that assurance that these are not going to get damaged by people who can use it for free, right?
I mean, the choice here would then be, are they open all the time, or are they open only during the league reservations? I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could approach it. My understanding of the previous discussion was just leaving them open to the public as
Right.
usual.
That we wanted them to be first come, first serve in order to accommodate the other citizens who have made comment to us about not having access because the rec department, and with them opening so many more courts this summer, we are going to have more opportunities for citizens to be able to play at other courts. I think the fee for the pavilion gives you that right to tell other people that they aren't able to use it during the time frame that you have it, right? That's what you're paying for essentially, and then we get an assurance that we can get damages paid for if it happens.
But I don't know, I guess I'm thinking it's mixing two different things, because I thought we said the last time the pavilions, if they weren't rented, could be used, and they would use the verbiage that's on the signs as a way that if the police stopped, they could get a name, and if they came back, if there was damage or whatever.
Right.
So it's open. I guess I thought you were saying
Right.
something
That's
different.
it's a separate agenda item.
Okay.
Right. But it plays into the same thing. Like, we don't have a system in the city that would allow for us to fair and equitably rent these courts out to citizens. And we haven't made an announcement in any of the city flyers that are mailed out to all citizens of what the process is. But we have for the other things, like the court pavilions. And in fact, even improved that packet, and we're trying to add this court rental system onto that packet that we're going to be releasing maybe at the end of this year if we can. So how would we modify this once we set it? Would we just bring up another agenda item once we have that software and the ability to rent it out and keep track of who wants to use the courts for specified periods of time? We would be able to amend this, correct? So yeah, I would make the motion that we approve per the verbiage here with the exception of that bottom part. I might just amend it to say reserved for single-use private events.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second. Okay. What is the time frame for getting this reservation system in?
So the capital improvement sheet was submitted for the 2025 calendar year budget. So that is the city's cycle of funding things. We will hope to have a suggested software package that once the funding is approved, then it can be deployed pretty quickly. In the meantime, we're hoping to reorganize some of the staff tasks around this, and also it may be that it could be something we could look at doing a little bit sooner, but I cannot speak to what Common Council would be interested in doing. So if you wanted to put forward a request to make a budget amendment and do that as a body, you certainly could do that. But for now, the work that's been done is for 2025. So.
Do we have to do a motion for that? To put through that request?
Yes, that would require direction from you guys. So it would be helpful to conclude the current vote, and then we can talk about it, because that actually is your item under the budget item as the capital improvement request. But as of right now, we don't have an identified vendor. So yeah, we'd have to go through that process, and it's going to take a couple months. So.
I think it's more crucial to get that done as soon as possible.
Right.
Yes, I do too.
agree,
And I totally understand the point. It is, pickleball it's just getting bigger and bigger. And we have more courts. We have Pleasant View. There will be Fleming. I don't know how that's going to be. That's county, so I don't know if that's going to be reservable or what they're going to do. Do you know, Tina?
There's going to be a QR code that you can scan, or you can call and do it, and it's going to charge $15.75 an hour per court.
Oh, so they will be paying, yeah. And I totally understand too, there are people in the community, we have to leave some courts open, but hopefully, perhaps at some point, the rec department can expand their program too to add additional nights to it, and that way, that I'm just saying, with more and more people wanting to play, that could perhaps be an option to add an additional night of play that you can, in that way, if people are signed up, it would be reservable. So, you know, if by chance, till we get to the point where we feel that we can reserve the other courts.
I think
So.
I think you're right. We'll need to, I'm looking at the one word now too, established community organization. Would that be municipal organization rather than community?
Where are you reading?
Now that I'm just noticing that one word. I know we've already voted. I made a motion to approve that.
You didn't actually vote.
Okay, but we didn't vote yet now, right? And we've opened it up
Because we
for
all did
discussion.
vote.
Yeah.
So,
The second to last line.
Yeah.
First
Yeah. Again, these are suggested motions. The idea there was to make it so that the rec department's reservation request would be appropriate, but
Right.
also if it was an established community group like a high school group or someone who has a nonprofit or something else, but as long as it's open to the general public or to like reasonable group of people, to kind of stay within the spirit of a public use. So, if you want the city attorney to wordsmith this, that is
just say maybe we could get a legal review on what that actually means and what we're because I know, I hear you saying back to me what I think it needs to say, but I don't know how to articulate it, because municipality is only gonna give it to, the rec department, and you're right, there are other times when the appropriate group would be approved. Until we get the system in place, right, to make the reservations. And it also will take a bit of the responsibility off of our DPW folks who have to go out there and put those placards up every time we have to change. We're already talking about trying to get more, positions in that department to support all the requirements, and reservations of these for hours would require printing out, putting it up on the thing, making sure that they're open and accessible. So I think we can do it. I think it's just not going to be this season. And if you're saying it's 2025, we make it a priority to get that on the agenda, like you said, for the funding for that system. And we can
For this year.
yeah, for this year, and get it onto the 26 budget. Is that right? 25 budget? Is that October to October fiscal year?
The fiscal year is the calendar year.
Calendar year here. Okay. So yes, by December, we'll need to get a motion passed through to get the funding for something that mirrors the technology that the county has.
She said we could revise our budget and add that for this year.
Right?
The funding, get the funding for this year.
If the commission wants to request that review,
Make that request
you could make that
as
request.
a motion.
Did they fill that position, from the city, the one that put the delay on that request?
No, the planning manager seat is still vacant.
Still vacant?
I've been working
Still
on it.
adding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to pass the verbiage that you see up there after review from our legal, and with the addition of single-use events.
And I second.
Okay. Everybody, is it
All in
yay,
favor?
yes?
Aye.
Every aye? Me too. Okay,
Aye.
good, good. So how do we want to proceed with this? Because this involves the 3 people in there?
Yep. So then you do have a number of requests for pickleball court reservations from the public that are under your new business. So if you wanted to take those now, they do need a decision, even though you've already taken this decision. So
Okay, so we have a request for senior pickleball leagues from Franklin resident Sam Corsini. Request to reserve the pickleball courts at Lions Legend Park. For resident pickleball leagues, requested dates for Monday through Friday, Mondays mornings 9:30 a.m. to specific time, May 13th through October 14th, 2024.
So this would all come under first come, first serve?
No, this is going to be a motion to deny
Right,
based off of our newly passed policy.
okay.
But still, they can come under first.
Oh,
serve.
absolutely,
can
yeah.
come- they
It's
can
going to
just
be
come and
a
do it.
first come, first serve, and like every other citizen, it just won't have the ability to tell folks that you aren't aren't able to use the courts
Do you wanna
at
vote?
this time until we get a system in place.
Okay, so a vote to deny on it then?
I make a motion that we deny the request.
I'll second.
Okay. Is he here? Are you here today?
have to do all
Sam's
in
here.
favor.
Sam, did you want to say anything?
I
Oh.
have tinnitus. I have a hard time hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, according to your sheet there, I'm Sam Hershey, 7025 Southfield Sloan Court. And I've had the pickleball courts reserved for the last number of years. I know it said that the general public can't do it, but I do adhere to all the other rules that it's open pickleball. And the only reason I'm there is to set the rules of play so that everybody has a fair chance and nobody's hogging the courts or anything. So, like I say, I've been doing this a number of years. It's been working out. there's been no conflicts. And if those other courts get finished in time, we'll have even more people playing. They'll have the 4-role players will have the opportunity to play. But like I say, I'm just there to set the rules so everybody can play on an even basis. So.
I think, Sam, what from the previous discussion, and I'm not sure how much you heard, is for right now they're trying to set a precedent that if you're not going to allow one group to reserve, you're not going to allow other groups to reserve. If you get there, which you'll probably be there, and you're there, then it's no problem. They're saying at this time not to.
Well, if I had it reserved, so to speak, that would give me somewhat the authority to do what needs to be done to keep pickleball flowing. So if I will be there, yes, but will anybody that's new there adhere to the rules, hog a court or whatever may happen? That's what I'm there to avoid. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, B,
Wait, you have to vote on it.
what?
I made a motion, she second, and then,
To deny.
and then you have to say
the
all in
reserve.
favor. All in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And it's recorded. We're good.
So he can come there as he always did, and the general public can join him at any time.
Yeah, it
And
just
if
won't be
anybody wants
reserved.
to-
You can come,
It just won't have
Right.
the word reserved in it.
Okay.
but it won't be reserved, technically reserved.
Okay. So we're all good on that one? Same thing for the second one? B, resident pickleball leagues, resident David Newsom. Are you here, David? Okay. He was going to reserve it. 3 pickleball courts at Pleasant View located at 4620 West Evergreen Street. Franklin resident pickleball leagues requested dates for Monday through Friday mornings, 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Monday through May through September 2024.
Make a motion to deny based off of our newly implemented policy.
I have to second.
Okay,
We're so short.
right. So all of us then, do we all agree on that?
Aye.
Okay, aye.
Moving on.
Okay, C, same thing basically. Resident pickleball leagues for Steve Brawl and Pat Harris requested to reserve the pickleball courts at Pleasant View located at 4620 West Evergreen Street for resident pickleball leagues. Requested dates Wednesday evenings, 5:30 to 7:30, March through October 2024.
I don't know if they're here.
Is anybody here from them? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, we still have to go through the
I make
procedure?
a motion to deny the request based off our new policy.
Second.
All in on this, yes?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
And then you have the tabled one, which is actually under your unfinished business, item IVG, the high school request. That's from the previous meeting.
Was a request made for the student to come tonight?
It was. Is there someone here?
David?
No. Then I'll make a motion to deny based off of not being able to get the information to see the affiliation with the municipal city school district.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Wait, can I speak on his behalf? Doesn't he fall under the established, I don't remember the verbiage.
It's a brand new league that he wants to do. We don't have any
But
information.
it's through the school.
Oh, I don't know, then.
Reserving the multi-purpose room at the high school after school.
He what? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
They've been reserving the multi-purpose room at the high school. Last spring, I think he started just kind of getting a couple kids.
Who is he?
He's a teacher.
He's a teacher.
And he is over
Yeah, she has the info.
So it is a high school club, is a teacher.
So why haven't they gone through the school system then? I'm just
We don't have
asking.
tennis courts in the school system.
I thought this was pickleball.
There's no courts for this in the high school. So he's just requesting use of the city courts for his club to go to after school.
One of the things they asked at the last meeting was, do they charge for it?
Not as a school club. I don't know if they collect fees that end. But I would assume not.
I haven't seen the pickleball thing show up in any of the school literature. My son is a high school student there.
It's very new, I know that. I haven't seen much of it. He's been asking to visit our courts through me, and I'm like, I don't do this.
Right.
Come to the city.
I would say that at our last meeting, we had given them the opportunity to come because he was on the agenda last time, and then we were supposed to invite him to this meeting to present so that we could validate it. And, I mean, I appreciate it, but we don't have anything really from the requester.
Do you want to table it, and I can reach out to him again, and maybe Leah can follow up,
I
because
think that
I
would be
did ask
great.
him to come, but,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
It would be a nice feeder for the rec department, because once they turn 18, then they can join rec to play as well. So we'd like to see that, but I'm surprised that he hasn't shown up, and I haven't seen anything in the public school newsletters that come out with the sports. Spring sports is coming up on the 21st. We're having a meeting for that, and they could have presented their club at that point too. That's not on the list. Yeah. But still, after-school clubs or go through the school should be on the agenda. I mean, my daughter's in the crochet club, and that goes through the rec department, So we could link up and make sure that it's fair and equitable, that students can join it, and, that it's open for them, and then we give them access to the court like we do rec department, and I think that would be a good thing for our community.
Okay.
So I'd like to change that. Let's make a motion to hold on this until next
To table
month.
it,
And
okay.
please invite the requester to come to the meeting.
You want a second that? Yes or
And
we
if you
need
know
to-
him,
is that-
you tell him, come to the
We
meeting.
table it.
and,
We don't-
That's it?
You know,
Okay,
we'd like to
beautiful.
entertain the idea.
Yes, that would be great. Okay, and then we have D.
I think we have to finalize that, don't we? I made a motion.
No, you don't need a motion.
For that?
Because we
No,
just tabled it
just
then?
table.
Okay.
Okay. D, that,
Thanks for coming. See you on the courts.
yep. So we have D, the representative from Franklin Recreation Department, proposal to add a member to provide the information to the commission about the assist of according with the Franklin Public Schools recreation and education and recreation. Is that the same thing we were just talking about?
We had some discussion about this item at a previous meeting. Since that time, staff has met with staff from the Education and Rec Department and put to them this suggestion of the commission's, because it would be super helpful to have Leah or another representative here to help provide their insight to the commission, answer questions, coordinate effectively, et cetera. So it's something that Common Council would have to approve. It would be a change to the municipal code. So there's under the rules that make up your commission, there is a definition of membership for the commissioners in general, an ex officio member, which is Ms. Runty, who represents the Kayla's Playground Ambassadors, and this would be a new role under that heading. So if it's something you're interested in pursuing, I think it would be really good, because it's clear that this level of coordination needs to kind of improve, and so this is our suggestion for how to do that. And then, they would send someone if there was an agenda item that's relevant to them, if they have comments, if you request their time, that kind of thing. And Leah's here and can talk more about kind of the options for coordination as well, but she would most likely be the regular representative.
I think we should pursue it. I think it would be good that we have good communication between the two departments because there's so many requests that come in.
So I did provide you with a suggested motion because in order to take to this to common council as a recommendation, this is my thought as to how to word it, but
Is it open for discussion?
yeah, you can.
Leah, do you have any thoughts on?
I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff we do that we don't know that you don't do, or vice versa. There's always been kind of a lack of communication, and I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just you guys do your thing, we do our thing, and I think why not? Just so we're in the same boat. We might be starting some new stuff, and if we don't want to double up, we don't want to. If you make parks, we have the thing, like that kind of thing. Don't put this in there if we have it, that kind of thing. Or if you guys want to run programs, use our guide for that, advertising, that kind of thing as well. I just think it would benefit both of our departments.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it would also provide like a more regular point of contact. So we've been working to improve communications at the staff level, but this would formalize that relationship so that, you know, if you guys want to put something in their newsletter, you know,
Right,
right.
right. Well, I think the TV show puts Parks and Rec together, and then our website in the city of Franklin also has Parks and Recs under the same title. So there's some confusion that, you know, you are run by the public school system and we're through the city, including myself. I mean, I schooled myself on it last month that, and since 91, right? So, but everybody says Parks and Rec. So I think that the partnership would be great, and to get the advice and counsel from you on things that you hear through your rec program would be really helpful for us, especially if we can move forward with getting funding for a system similar to what you have for reservations.
Yeah, and
I think that would move us forward faster.
Erin and I were talking about getting together and kind of figure out what they needs are, software and all that stuff. So I think it would be good.
And I know we have some experience on the council too, because one of our members is from the county, right? So we'll have some legacy there about the programming that they use too to share, I think.
Okay, do I want to make a motion then?
I'll
Or is
make
there
a
anything else?
motion to
A motion
recommend
to
to
recommend a
common council.
common council to add a representative from the Franklin Recreation, from Education Recreation Department as an ex officio member of the Parks Recreation Commission. Parks
Second.
Recreation Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I am not certain I will get this on the next common council agenda, but I will get it on the one following if I don't do that. So.
Oh, it's next week.
Right.
Can't do that.
All right, and since Leah's still here and she probably wants to go home, we can go to unfinished business then. Franklin Recreation Department and Pickleball League's updated request. Franklin School District Community Education and Recreation Department request to extend approved time to 12 p.m.
There was actually a change to the change. Remind me what the change to the change
Yeah,
was.
it was 11:30. We talked about splitting up the Saturday mornings, this is only Saturday mornings, from 8 to 10, having the advanced people, and then from 10:30 to, no, 8 to 10, yeah. And then 10 to noon for the social, just breaking it up so that, it's like,
You just said it was changed to 11:30 though.
Didn't you say to 12:30?
Isn't it till 12?
12:30. It was 11:30, that was the original thing that was approved.
So it should be
12 is
12:30.
correct.
It should be 12:30.
It says 12 on here, right?
So there's a half an hour in between 8 to 10, the
Okay.
advanced, half an hour for people to finish up their game, get out, and then the new group, 10:30 to 12:30. Instead of the 9 to 11:30. This will allow more residents to sign up because we can expand it that way.
And And this is for both courts, the top and the bottom, yeah.
Okay. Do we have any approval?
I'll make a recommendation to approve. A motion to approve the request till 12:30, from 8 to 12:30 on Saturdays during rec play.
Anybody want to second it?
Guess I second.
Okay. What? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I know there's only two of us.
And you.
Yeah, this is so weird, there's nobody here. Okay,
Back to the top.
back to the top. Unfinished business, update on parks maintenance.
It's on.
Not a whole lot going on in the parks. After the storm and snowstorm in January, we cleaned up some of the trees that were down in the parks. But lately, there's been more traffic in the parks, especially Kayla's playground, and so we've been keeping that up, and the restrooms open there, so there has been some traffic there, so that's a good thing. We'll just keep an eye on the weather, and if it gets warm, we'll start opening things up. So I guess that's about it.
There's still a lot of trees down on Monastery, that Mission Park wetlands. They come through there, they're on the road, and part of the road is even still covered with brush.
Wanted to add a few things. So just to let you know that the Kayla's resurfacing is on the street for contractors. I don't recall when we're actually collecting bids, but we have a pre-bid meeting on the 21st where bidders are invited to come out and look over the facility. And so I think it's going to be a good bid. We're looking at maybe June, I believe, is the month we plan to basically have Kayla's playground shut down. So the other thing I put in front of you tonight, this was the Cascade Trail has been on the city's radar for going on 5 years now. As far as wanting to do some sort of connection between Cascade Park and actually River Terrace also to connect to the trail, the county trail system. County originally reviewed our proposal and told us yes on the River Terrace side, but no on the Cascade Park side, which is really the emphasis for trying to do the project. Through some continued negotiations, they said, well, that maybe they would consider if we were to use some land on the City of Milwaukee's tree farm site. And so it's taken us a while, but finally this afternoon, Alderman Barber and myself, we went over and met with Milwaukee Public Works Director and also the tree farm manager. And it appears to be at least their opinion is they can work with us. So we're going to go ahead and on this next Common Council agenda, hopefully get permission to start the design. And we will just start the design because we don't know if we'll be building bridges or walkway or boardwalks, or hopefully our original intent was just some large culverts to get over. So I can't tell us how much we're going to spend to build the facilities, but we'll find that out hopefully in the next few months.
Is the entrance still going to be 60th or through Cascade?
Entrance,
The beginning of this trail that goes
yes.
down to the tree farm.
Yes. Yeah, you would. So you enter the park through off of 60th Street. So somewhere on there, we extend the pathway over to the tree farm.
And then it would go on to the county trail.
Conceivably. So the designers would go do the wetland inventory, look at tree inventories, and try to figure out the best way to navigate through that corridor. And then we would propose that to the city of Milwaukee and also the county of Milwaukee, and hopefully they'll agree with us. Right now, I can't tell exactly.
Is that split off from the current trail, or is that start somewhere?
It would connect to the current trail. So the current,
Well, there's the trail on 60th and Drexel. is that a county trail?
I'm not familiar with the
The
trails.
Oak Leaf Trail.
Oh, okay. Oh, the one that crosses Drexel?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's this trail, but Drexel is further to the north.
Okay. I gotcha.
So conceivably, you could go from the high school, walk from the high school, cross the new bridge that we built a few years ago, walk down Cascade, which is a quiet neighborhood street, go into the park, get over to the trail, head north a little bit, and get over to River Terrace, and you could go over to 68th Street. So that's in the works. I just wanted to let you know that's, after 5 years of talking about it, it's finally on the move. Maybe.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, let's go to B then, park permit use, draft ordinance to add municipal code section 18348D to permit use of the city park pavilions without proper authorization.
So I took your comments last meeting and talked to our city attorneys. As somewhat expected, they did not like it at all. They don't like the idea that asking for someone's ID when they're not really violating the law. Even though we may have a ordinance against littering and so forth in the pavilions, they wasn't felt that the judge would see it the same way as being a significant enough violation of law to require someone to show an ID, which is a civil rights, or not civil rights, but a constitutional rights issue. So we scrapped that after a lot of back and forth discussion. Talking with the police chief, what he felt like we could use is something simple that you see on the second page of this draft common council action. Use of pavilions not in accordance with the postage signage is prohibited, period. Those without reservations may be asked by the city to vacate premises, and citations may be issued for ordinance violations. So after talking with the police chief, what I understood your concerns to be, his thoughts about what they could enforce and what they wouldn't get in, I won't say in trouble for enforcing. He felt like their officers had enough discretion and understood the sensitivities of various issues, that language would suit our needs. So I'm going to, with your blessing, I'd like to take this to the Common Council next week. And
So just one question.
Sure.
So, I wasn't here, but I listened to the minutes, that December meeting when the police officer came. And he said they're not going to come into the park looking for people using the pavilion. So
That's correct.
would be, and they said if it were a complaint was made, that they would react. So is that kind of what he's saying, is if there's a complaint, they'll come and check it out, and if they have to, they would issue a violation. But otherwise, really, people could still use those pavilions if they're
Sure.
not
So never say never. I mean, somebody could conceivably have. This doesn't tie their hands from doing that if some officer decided to ever do this. But knowing that it's really the intention to get our parks used, and if you're there, not making a jerk of yourself, not making a mess of everything, the police typical protocol would be to, hey, can you clean this up? And if that doesn't work, then this does give them the tool to enforce some of the. And again, it's not a lot, but there are some issues each year that happens where this would really be handy for the officers to put some teeth into some commands.
So if not following the rules on the sign.
May, yeah. So
Okay.
I think that, at least I felt that conveyed the intent of the committee.
I'm a little surprised that we presented the ID option to the legal team, because I thought we had already determined that it would be unconstitutional to ask a private citizen for their ID based off of wondering if they had made reservations. So I'm surprised that got put up to them, because I thought we made it a moot point in the last meeting.
My recollection was that's the way it was ended up, but I could be wrong.
I thought so. That we could.
And then I thought we were going to have them review it for the vagueness of the municipal code, being that it's subjective, regular citizens to, make just be at subject of somebody's opinion of whether they were causing, breaking the rule, because we weren't. It was so gray. The area was so gray. So we went back to the signage and said that it would be required to follow all of the policies that are listed on the signage, which we've paid for and put out at all the parks and are clearly displayed, so people would know what those rules are.
And I think you said that they would have to follow those rules.
But we're still pursuing it with the adding of the word may to
well,
leave it subjective
so-
in a gray area.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So just by putting a sign out there does not give them the ordinance backing to enforce it. Just by having a sign doesn't allow them to do that. By putting up a sign allows them that flexibility and ability to do that. Again, when we had this worded, basically, will result in citations, police chief felt that he would prefer to see something may. So just because you have something on a sign, these things are required, da-da-da-da-da-da. If someone is out there violating those, that's not a given that, he must give them a citation. This gives them more flexibility than
Like
what
clean
that
it
would.
up and go home, or if you don't, he could give up.
So, and I can't remember the specifics, but there was some examples cited where when you look at some of our signage, seems to be somewhat in conflict, and that was bothersome to the police chief. I mean, there is a problem when you try to get too descriptive in your do's and don'ts. Sometimes you leave things out, or sometimes you can contradict yourself, or be
Right.
confusing.
And we had gone back to the idea of having a municipal code that would make it finable to litter or to vandalize, right? Which we said we didn't have one that they could use in lieu of this pavilion use municipal code. But surely a city policy against littering, and because that's what we were trying to get after, right? Was that we were having vandalism and littering in the pavilion after people were having parties that weren't authorized through the purchase of a permit through the city.
But it's also the people that don't rent a pavilion, but yet are there late at night. And when the cleaning person comes by to lock up, if you will, now there's somebody there, and it costs the city more time because that person has to go away, then come back. And if especially if they leave a mess when they leave, and then the cleaning person comes back, now she's got more of a mess, and she has to stay even longer. And so I think that was part of the issue too. So.
Well, I thought they didn't have assigned cleanup if they didn't have a permit, and that sometimes.
I believe they sometimes go by and still close up things, check on trash and those sorts of things. So if she shows up, she's got her night scheduled. She plans to go by and just empty the trash. Now she's got to do a full cleanup, which is she was not on her schedule, and we're not really paying her, where that's coming out of the city's pocket.
So we don't have the ordinance here, but.
Yes, you do.
We
Well,
do.
you're correct.
I don't. So
You don't have the ordinance, but you have the language. It's the highlighted part of the second page.
for some reason, I don't think I got the packet. These are the minutes. Oh, it's in here, sorry.
With the posted hours of the park being opened and when it's closed, that's not enough for the police department to come and remove somebody or from the park. I feel we've had this on the agenda for such a long time, and it's so gray. And I'm familiar. I work for the government. I know the must, only, will, all those little nuances. May, yes, puts flexibility in the application of the ordinance, but it's subjective, and I don't think that an average citizen wants to be put in a subjective position that we're making a determination that your party's not okay because your children are running amok, but my party's okay because I've lived here for a long time and people know me. I don't feel like this ordinance, as it's written, presented to the Common Council, is effectively going to get after what we've been told is the issue we're trying to remedy.
In looking at the ordinance, did the city write this? Is that who wrote this? Because it doesn't look like they updated it.
Every
Because,
time it's been presented to Common Council for review or their comments, it's not written as we've discussed it in our meeting.
right, this isn't written, it's got, these unreserved uses do not have to acknowledge the rules at each pavilion, and any damages or excessive cleaning efforts, well, that might be true, are not recoverable from security deposits, but we did say
I'm
last
sorry.
time-
I'm sorry. What are you reading?
I'm looking at the ordinance.
That's
That's
when
in
we
the
put to
first paragraph. And actually, at the last time, we said that the signs cover anyone. It's not just those that rent those pavilions. It would cover anyone.
I don't have the actual ordinance in here. So I have the language I plan to. So if you look on the second page, D, I'm looking to add D. So A, B, and C are already in the municipal code.
I don't have it. I don't think.
I don't understand what you're reading.
Oh, here, A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
But the upper paragraphs aren't.
Changed.
They aren't changed because it's
Correct.
saying to restrict it with no restriction to party size and include signage with restrictions.
Well, that was a direction from Common Council. So you're reading the background section.
Okay.
So analysis. So what we're
Okay, I
proposing
got it.
is A, B, and C are already in the code. Considering the guidance provided by Common Council on May 16, which is why I had to reiterate that in the first part, the Franklin Parks Commission has recommended, and this is what we're talking about tonight, regulations concerning parks to include paragraph D to state. That's what we're looking to add.
Use of pavilions not in accordance with the posted signage is prohibited. Those without reservations may be asked. Do you have it, Kristen? I think that would be okay. I don't like all this other stuff that we,
Well,
that if you could say, we've discussed it many times, and we felt that the community should be allowed to use it, but they must use it based on the posted signage.
so I'm glancing at this. Which paragraph would you like me to change?
It's in the background, right? It's in the
Yeah.
background. So it didn't update after discussion,
Sure.
with the Parks Commission. We weren't
So-
agreeable that to saying you can't use those pavilions without a.
But the guidance at the Common Council, so I'm reminding the Common Council what their last direction to you was. Their direction on May 16 was, quote, to restrict the use of city pavilions with no restriction to party size and include signage with restrictions. That was their direction to you on May 16. That's in the second paragraph.
Second paragraph.
So I shouldn't change that. That was their direction to you.
But don't you have to give them a little further background that it was brought back and the commission?
So, I did say that the Franklin Police Department appeared before the Parks Commission to talk about some things. And then the Parks Commission on February 12th, which is tonight, has recommended. I could put another sign that you've talked about at every meeting since then.
Oh, and then D as written below?
Correct.
I'm okay with D. Because we said that isn't restricting the use of the pavilions. Well, use of pavilions not in accordance with the posted signage is prohibited. Those without reservations may be asked by the city to vacate premises and citations may be issued I guess if not following the posted signage with the basis of the use of the pavilion. I don't know if anybody else has a comment to leave it as stated or if it should be stated a little differently.
We did. So I did. I say we. I went back and forth with the police chief and the city attorney on, citations may be issued for, littering. Citations may be issued for, the various other things that could be. And police chief would prefer just say ordinance violations. That gives him a broad enough yet something with teeth that he can use if it should come to that.
I would think they could give the citation to somebody with or without a permit. They could be asked to vacate the premises also, not just those without a permit. If somebody's damaging or whatever.
So you could, but we do have a mechanism in place that, so if you rent the pavilion, we have a mechanism to recoup cost. But if you're not rented it, we don't know who you are. We have no way to follow up on the mechanism.
Right.
And the only way we would have it to know who you are is if you were. So, for example, if the police shows up and they did cause some damage, we think they caused some damage, you could be issued a citation, and if they didn't, let them argue about it in court, I suppose. But, again, the police they're not really trying to get something else on their plate to have to go out and babysit every night. But
I would not expect them.
But a couple times a year, they would probably have to issue a citation for obvious and extreme things. Maybe once a month or so, they might get called out for a reason. But, one out of every 6 or 10 times, they may have to issue a citation. If that.
I don't know how anybody else feels. I got it that it's not going to be used often. But they could still ask somebody that rented the pavilion, would it be a citation if they're there playing really loud music and it's disturbing the neighborhood?
Yeah, there's noise violation ordinances.
Well, I just don't know if this should just say those with or without a reservation may be asked by the city to vacate the precedence, and citations may be issued for ordinance violations. Could they just add that? Because it really could be either or. The ordinance would really, I know you can recoup money if they have to spend more time cleaning up, but if there was damage done, if it costs more than $250, couldn't they still issue a citation or not?
I don't have the permit in front of us, but I would have to imagine there's something in the permit that covers people
Park
that.
rules are on the back of the permit.
Do we know how many law-abiding pavilion renting citizens have had their deposit deducted due to
It's quite
damage?
common. It's quite common.
So will they also be issued citations along with the non-refundable?
No, because we keep their deposit to fix the hole in the wall or the broken lock or those other things that sometimes they smear sticky stuff all over or those. I mean, Dale can probably give me more examples, but
you can see that from regular park use, and the facilities aren't only allocated to people who are reserving the pavilion. So the bathrooms are open. So if you get a whole thing of toilet paper shoved down the toilet, that could not possibly not be the person from the party. It could be a citizen that did it. It doesn't necessarily have to be an organized group using the pavilion. It could be anybody who's using the park. And honestly, we haven't had any presented evidence of the damage. We said, do you take pictures of it? Is it documented? Could we get some evidence of what we're talking about? Because we're not there at the park late at night having to kick people out after sunset who have made a mess of the park for you guys to have to clean up. And we don't know what this cleaning crew is having to deal with, right?
Yep.
But we entertained this for several months now. I mean, it's almost a year already that we've had it on there, like finessing the verbiage. And the background verbiage still seems the same.
The background would be the same because the background hasn't changed.
And I'm just surprised that the legal team wouldn't have said, this is so great. We need to make it more concrete in what we're getting after here. The ability for someone to complain and have the cops come and cite somebody, that's what we're looking for, essentially.
Just to give you a little better idea, Ann, our cleaning person, she comes in, she closes the parks at night, whether they're rented or not, and sometimes she calls me and says that these people aren't leaving, or she calls the cops, and the cops don't do anything. At that point, she gets a little frustrated. She doesn't have a camera to take pictures, plus it's half dark already anyways, so it's hard to get good pictures. But it does happen. I don't know how to define how much it's happening, but it does happen. So I don't think I think this is a good thing to have the tools in place so the police can, have a leg to stand on when they.
Oh, I like the verbiage. I just think that either or could be cited. I don't know what everybody else thinks. If they don't like the verbiage ND, or if they think something else, or maybe I'm being too picky.
So you would say use of pavilions not in accordance with postage signs is prohibited, period. Those with or without reservations may be asked by the city to vacate prisons, and citations may or may not be issued for ordinance violations? Is that what you're telling?
May or may not, or just may be?
I think may indicates it could be may or may not.
Okay.
So those with or without reservations.
Are you okay with that? I think that covers what we're trying to say, that you follow the sign. But
I'm not sure we've satisfied Commissioner Stanley's concerns.
Yeah, I just, may or may not is as good as saying nothing. So we're creating a city ordinance to help our DPW worker get the cops out when she's already called them and they don't respond because they say there's no municipal code to make people vacate.
well, the sign
area.
says how long the park's open.
She's not saying may or may not. She's just saying with or without.
A
Those
permit.
with or without a reservation.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave it as may be asked by the city to vacate premises, and citations may be issued.
Can I suggest if it's a problem, we do revisit this? But I believe that, according to my staff, it's a very much needed issue. In talking with police, they believe that this would help them tremendously in their efforts.
Well, we had the police officer come and say that they wouldn't actively pursue this ordinance, that it would
Correct.
be based off of complaints only.
Correct.
So the potential's there for somebody to sit there and call for whomever comes and sits and say that there's a complaint, and then have to have the police respond because it's one of our city ordinance and make their determination of whether it's valid or not, and may or may not give them a citation. It's so gray. I know you guys see it because we're trying so hard to figure out the verbiage to help get after the problem.
Do you have a recommendation for the verbiage?
I think the recommendation would be for the Common Council to come up with some City of Franklin ordinance that doesn't allow loitering, which would be after hours use of a park, which doesn't allow for littering, which vandalism. I mean, those are the things that the police department can get after. And I was surprised we didn't have that. When we presented it the first time we talked about this, we had asked if there was, and we were told that there was not city ordinance against that. And that's why we were making this Parks Commission. And it was presented to us as there's groups of people who are using the pavilion, who are not managing their group like they should, and then we have city workers who are having to clean up and fix damage, and that's how it was presented to us. I don't see how gray area or ordinance is going to be helpful in that. And I think it's actually putting our police department in a predicament to have to make those subjective calls, which, based off of the group that we were talking about in previous meetings, is going to cause as much of a problem as asking for a citizen's ID.
But we did solve the issue that, because initially when it was presented, it was if you didn't have a permit, you couldn't even be in there.
Right, and we softened that up.
So that if they follow the rules, they can. But I think police also make decisions on a daily basis. You got your neighbors playing their music too loud or something, some kids, and the cops will come, and they may or may not issue a citation at their homes. They say, hey, turn it down. If you don't turn it down, I'm going to issue it. So it's kind of this, in my opinion, it's kind of the same thing. But they have the authority to do it if they want.
Yeah.
If it's
We have
necessary.
noise ordinances in this city, which are also, I mean, I know you're using that as an example, but
Yeah, I'm just.
we have
Driving 37 and 35.
Right.
You're clearly
Right, and
violating the law.
Sometimes they give a warning, and sometimes they go,
They don't
hey,
even-
I've told you, I've stopped you 5 times in the last month. Enough is enough. So I don't know.
how many do you need to pass this?
I'd like to know,
I think
I don't know, I'm
think we
sorry,
need-
what the signs
we
that
need
are up
4.
there say.
We do.
Don't they say no littering, no?
Depends on the park. Yeah. Depends on the park. I mean, Kayla's has the whole, Bible of do's and don'ts, thou shalt and thou shalt nots. Other parks, not so much.
So we need a quorum to approve it.
No, I think you only need I could be wrong, but I think you only need a majority of those present.
That would be 3. I think it needs to be.
It's just a recommendation. It's not so this will go to common council and
Council for them to
And I could, and if it's a split vote, I can say 3-1 or 2-2. I can make that notation that it was some of the concerns.
Or
And-
can someone abstain from voting?
Why don't we talk about it next month when we have more members here for input?
What's the date of the next common council meeting?
Doing what's happening in the county parks.
The 21st,
21st of February?
February 21st, yeah. And
Would
then-
there be enough time to get this on the agenda if we did approve it?
February 21st?
No, March.
February 21st, same night as common council.
She just asked what's the next common
Common
council meeting.
council.
Oh, I see.
Would it have enough time to get onto the next common council, and would we have another parks meeting in between the two?
Common council meets every 2 weeks, or twice a month, I should say.
So then the next common council meeting is the 5th of March. And your next meeting is March
The
11th.
And then the council meeting is the 19th after that.
I would suggest, I mean, if, I'm not going to tell you to vote, but if it should be a split vote, let me know exactly what you'd like to tell common council the concerns were, and I can present that. And I think I heard someone say, let common council come up with suggested language. And again, before their suggested language was restrict the use of city pavilions with no restriction to party size, and that's what their direction was. So, if I think if I could have your concerns, and I'll write them verbatim. I'll present them in the packet that way and show the options the way I had it presented and the options that with the preferred language or at least the preferred issues.
So do we need to take a vote then?
Or do we just give suggestions for you to take? Do you just want comments or do you want to vote?
Well, it needs to go back to Common Council with some sort of recommendation. Recommended to approve or recommended to deny. Recommended to approve or deny, but it was a split vote, and some of the concerns were X, Y, and Z. And again, I'll try to do my best to copy them verbatim and put them in the packet that way.
I would recommend to approve if you add permitted or non-permitted can be cited, may be cited.
So those with or without reservations.
Yes.
Okay.
And I wouldn't leave it as may. I would
Okay.
just leave it as may.
So you're making the motion?
Oh. Can I?
Sure.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay.
So we're just adding
Wait.
one word.
Yeah, with or
Am
without.
I able to abstain?
Those with or without. Okay. What?
I'm going to abstain from
Can we do that?
Sure.
Are you going to do that? Abstain?
Kristen is.
She already made the motion.
I made a motion to approve the language in D, but add may those with or without a reservation may be cited.
I'm going to abstain with that also. I don't agree with this at all.
Do you guys have, or, so what would be your suggestion? Or do you want them to come up with a different language?
My suggestion would be to not approve this ordinance proposal and that a separate city ordinance would be proposed for park use, after hours, loitering, vandalism, and littering.
Be created for after hours
Loitering.
loitering.
So we have posted park hours, and if they're violating our posted park hours, they should be able to call the police and have them removed based off of our posted hours. And then loitering and vandalism.
Isn't that on the sign already?
It
that
is on the sign. It is. But what we're saying is we have to have this separate ordinance. And I'm saying it's not necessary to say whether or not somebody can utilize the facilities at the park in order for the police to have the teeth to come out. Our police officer that came, which you weren't there when he came,
No, I
we were at that
listened.
meeting, but he was here and he said, I wouldn't use this ordinance unless somebody called and complained. So I don't think that we should, make it so that people have to think that someone's going to call me in on this because I'm having pizza and that might look like a
I don't
party to
think they
somebody.
would.
They might.
But why would they?
They
No, it's may is for if they're not following the sign. Isn't that correct? If they're not following the posted signage.
And the signage says loitering and vandalism. Does it not?
But when you read the background of this ordinance as it is, and you read the recommendation, it appears as if the council is our Parks Commission is asking for the police to have a city ordinance to may or may not. And I'm just saying, with it being so gray, it doesn't seem like it's going to get after the problem that we have. We have signs posted, and people are violating it still, correct? When were the signs put out there?
A couple years ago. I think the new sign.
So get after it with a higher level, a city ordinance that doesn't have it, not a ordinance to say follow the sign that we put at the parks.
So you would essentially be asking, and I want to take this to the extreme. I apologize if it seems I'm downgrading this, but to take it to the extreme, you would have to post every single possible thing you don't want to have happen in the park in the ordinance. And so what they're trying to do is I'm trying to keep the ordinance as clean as possible, general as possible. So if you want to be more specific on a sign, you can. For example, if for some reason you had, you didn't want a surface to get wet. I mean, I'll make an extreme silly thing, but if you didn't want a surface to get wet, instead of having to go and make a common council ordinance issue out of it, you could simply put that on a sign and boom, it's in effect, because the ordinance that I'm proposing here, if it's on a sign out there, the police can enforce it and cite a ticket based on 183-48B. That's what the ticket would be issued for. And so that way we don't have to take 183-48 and take 80 things that you'd like to put as restrictions in the park. Right now, the police officer has nothing to write a ticket on because there's no ordinance that talks about things that are on the sign that may or may not be the problem. There are littering issues. I'm sure you could dig through the ordinance and find a littering issue, but this is kind of a clean, in the park, you follow the signs. If you're not following the signs, 183-48D is what the citation would be written on.
Well, I believe we took a vote already, so
So
we got our.
how do I write that?
You haven't taken a vote.
I made a recommendation,
Well, we
and Marion
abstained.
did, and you all abstained, and you said you recommend to deny and a separate city ordinance be created. So are you abstaining, or are you making a recommendation?
Well, they asked for a recommendation.
So
There was a motion on the recommendation from
Me.
Commissioner Lance,
Yes.
seconded by Commissioner Remington, and you had 2 abstentions and 2 ayes.
But-
So is there a new motion? I
But,
don't-
well, they abstained,
No,
but
they
they're
We have-
also, in their comments, are saying they
Okay.
think it's
Well,
separate
so-
city.
I apologize, but I'm not a Robert's Rule person, but I would think that if one person or 2 people abstain, then the vote would be whoever votes on it. I'm not telling you how to vote, but if you truly feel against it, then you should vote, but vote no. But if you don't vote, it would be a 2-0, 2-0-2 vote in favor of recommending this to Common Council. If that's what you should want, then that's fine, but it seems somewhat confusing. But if you're truly against it, I would suggest it should be a 2-2.
That you should vote no.
Yeah, and I would just say it's a
we're
split
being
decision.
presented with the idea that it really has to pass, so I abstain because if the council and the folks working in the city feel like this is something that really needs to get pushed through, but as a private volunteer citizen sitting on this commission, I don't see it being helpful to our community. I haven't been presented with anything that shows me that this is really getting after what the problem is. Even with the addition of the police officer coming, I'm familiar with government documents and how the verbiage really counts. So I thought when we said ask the legal that they would present us with something more concrete, not the specific details of everything you could possibly do at the park to be cited for, but something that has more general impact than something that says if you don't rent the pavilion, we can cite you. Now, if you don't rent the pavilion or you do rent the pavilion but you don't follow the sign that's posted, we can cite you. But we may or may not because it's subjective. So we'll call the police department and they make these decisions every day who's speeding and who's not. It just doesn't sound like something that the Parks Commission, I feel like we're wasting our time and we should be getting after planning parks and helping to get, the software so that we can rent out park facilities and get after what this commission is for, not to remedy, unfortunately, someone's difficult job situation where they have to deal with misuse of public property. I think it's unfortunate. I feel for them, but I don't feel that this is the right methodology to do it. So my recommendation that I just said, he had entertained the idea that he would go back to Common Council, give our voting results, and possibly have some recommendations. And my recommendation would be to say that we they would not approve whatever we have presented to them, and that they would put it back to Common Council to figure out where municipal code is getting drafted, and the verbiage for it is accurate and more concrete to be able to be effective to fix these problems that we're talking about.
Could I suggest that vote your heart, and if you should vote no, could I ask maybe tomorrow send me an email with summary, and I will include your I will quote you directly as either attachment or.
Kristen, too, so I have it for the minutes.
Yeah, so they already voted on the motion.
I don't. Did they vote or they?
They did vote.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
So you could take a new motion about this as well if you wanted, or proceed as the city engineer, because right now it's inconclusive. There's 2 abstentions
And it's, I shouldn't say not uncommon, but it has happened before where things have gone to common council from a various committee and, without a recommendation.
Yeah, the commission is.
And if they feel strongly enough and have been influenced enough by people saying that it's something that's required, then they would pass it. Hence my abstention and not my no vote. I'm not saying it wouldn't solve your problem. I don't know if it will be. Don't clearly understand your problem because I haven't been exposed to it enough to understand it. Typically, when I'm doing policy, I would want to see evidence, and I don't think that we in our positions as volunteer citizens get that, unfortunately. I hear you, and I want your problem to be remedied. I really do. I just don't feel as a citizen I want to be subjected to possibly someone asking for my ID or someone saying my pickleball party with pizza is a party and therefore finable because it's not allowed to not use the pavilion without making a reservation for $200. Hence why I abstained.
So if you send it to Glenn, then copy me and I'll have it for the minutes. Marion, do you want to change yours? I'm fine with keeping.
No, I second.
Okay.
Now, we were told before that we are not able to send email to direct commissioner to commissioner. Is that authorized in this situation as the minute taker?
May I suggest you not send it to her, and I will copy it verbatim, and you can see it in the council packet. But I think that is a concern.
So you'll send it to me?
No,
How about
it'll be published.
it'll be published in the council packet. If you send verbiage to me, then I will give it to Gail and to Commissioner Lance as to be part of the minutes. So it'll become part of the minutes, but if desired, I can just forward it to the group, bearing in mind that you can't reply all.
Oh,
Right,
I won't
that's-
reply. I just,
Right.
I'll have it verbatim though.
So I'm sending it to you.
Yeah, send it to
Correct.
me, and I will send it to Gail and Commissioner Lance. And then, I'll send it to
And that
everybody.
was my understanding from the council packet rules that we got, that we weren't to.
That's right.
Correct.
Between us.
I didn't know we couldn't ask.
and-
them, so.
Is tomorrow the drop dead deadline? I work full-time. I'm just curious. I got a schedule.
I could wait till today's Monday.
Today's Monday.
Wednesday morning would be great, but yeah,
Wednesday.
I've got a lot I'm working on this week. So just to make sure I understand, the motion was use of pavilions not in accordance with the postage signage is prohibited, period. Those with or without reservations may be asked by the city to vacate premises, and citations may be issued for ordinance violations.
I will also note for the commission that there is a citizen comment period at the beginning of each common council meeting. So if you are able to attend the meeting and make a comment there, that's a forum to do so.
Or talk to your alderman.
Yep.
So do we want to move on to C then? Park facilities reservation and permitting policies, discussion on reservation policies in league, sports, and others, groups, fees, rules, and policies for parks, pickleball facility reservation policy.
Which, see?
Yep.
So
I
we already did
We voted on this one already.
If there's other items relevant to this, so Commissioner Malecki did share, and I printed some information about pickleball and tennis court reservation that is like to prompt more discussion about how this this is also could potentially be talked about as parks marketing.
Does everybody have a copy of that?
No, I haven't passed
Can I
it out
pass
yet.
it out, or do you have one too?
I have them.
Okay.
Thanks.
So this is the second C.
So,
Right.
and my other update on this was the conversation that we had with the rec department about their permitting software, and that wasn't an option for the current situation or going forward. That we need to come up with the city's own options. So then, if you want to talk about this, or then you also have the marketing item later in the agenda. So.
All right, I have something else too that I want to kind of share, but let's do the pickleball.
Well, we already did that. You guys already
Oh,
made a decision about the public use
Oh,
of courts,
okay.
So,
But is this
Well,
is
this would
I?
be the charging thing, right?
yeah. So that's. I mean, we haven't set fees, so they haven't had a chance to see this yet. So, right now it's passed out for you guys to look at. But Commissioner Malecki
Okay.
put together this.
Just to review it and stuff
Yeah.
and see if you want to make any changes and.
Oh, okay. So when, like, you have an hourly fee, is it hourly by the court or hourly by the people? So you have 4 people playing on a court.
Okay.
Do you want it $10 a person, or are you saying $10 per court?
It'd be per the court, I would say. And that's just a fee that it's just out there. We can change it.
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
want. So it'd be per court, so that would be 4 people using the court then.
And it's
So one person would have to take out the
permit. And is
for
it
$10.
for 2 hours? Is the $10?
I think, is that what you guys were saying? That normally when you pay, it's like 2 hours? Tennis is usually like an hour.
Oh yeah, they play for 2 hours. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're setting the rules for that then. So they
Okay.
could play for 2 hours, for it's $5 an hour, just like tennis courts are $5 for 1 hour.
We charge for tennis courts, $5?
We don't, we're,
Not currently.
this is what we would do. We were setting the policies for it,
After $5?
to reserve it.
Seems kind of cheap.
$15
I don't know,
per
it could,
hour.
Per hour.
because we don't have lights there and stuff like that.
200 for 2 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, then I would say $10 per hour.
Okay.
That's still, if you divided it, 4 people were playing, it's still $5 for each person to
This
play.
is almost something that we should have like a committee just on its own to discuss this stuff.
Absolutely.
Because, and then present it.
Well, we can make a motion to table it till next month and assign somebody to, or have everybody review it and come back with proposals. Because we have a little bit of luxury of time now, because we're not going to implement this until we get through
Right, till we get the program
funding
to do it.
for
Right,
software to manage it,
right.
because they certainly can't use pencils and calendars to do 2-hour blocks for, how many courts total are we gonna have available,
A lot, right.
right? So, I think this we can table and review and come back with recommendations.
Right.
And then, if we're gonna make a motion to get something onto the next agenda, we would want it to be, budget proposal for software
Okay,
upgrade.
do we want to do that then? Yes?
You're tabling.
Make a
Tabling
motion to
this-
table the pickleball and tennis court rentals as we are currently with the ordinance, or with the policy we just established today, not renting. It is first come, first serve. So this wouldn't need to be implemented
So-
until we get some kind of reservation.
Reservation,
system.
so,
Right.
Yes. In my
so are we bringing it back next month, or what are we doing? I think it would be nice
Yes,
to have it in
To look
place.
it over.
Yeah.
And
Keep it on for next month, and that way, if you get a chance to go over it. Also, recommendation to look at other cities and how
Oh,
they're doing it as
That's
well.
really good.
I just signed up to play in another city so that I could see how they run their park department.
Right. Okay, so we have a motion then? Anybody second that?
Is this really a motion or?
Tabling
No,
it?
this one is
So we're
just
tabling
tabled,
it?
right?
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I have something else too here that I wanted just to run by you guys. So we were just talking about using the parks and stuff like that and renting the parks. Well, when you rent the park, it's usually for a 7-hour period. It's like the whole day basically. What would you guys think of having a shorter period of time? Let's say like for non-prime time, like Monday through Thursday, that you can rent it for 3 hours and have like a birthday party or a meeting and stuff and have charge less for it. Should I show you what I was thinking? Here. So instead of the whole 7-hour day, you would rent it for just a 3-hour days during non-prime time, which would be kind
Can-
of what you're talking about.
Are we
So
talking
that-
pavilions? I'm sorry.
What?
We're talking pavilions?
Yes, like just the outdoor area, not
I-
the indoor.
Sure.
And then,
Is
so let's
it-
say if you were having a birthday party and you had 25 kids there or whatever, people there, you could rent it for less for this 3-hour period, and you would get a sign or whatever, it's rented for this time, and be on the records that it's rented. And then you would have their down payments, and then you would have something, but it wouldn't be as expensive as renting it for the full 7 hours.
I guess my concern is that if the second group understood that we wouldn't have time to go clean it, in between.
Well, it'd just be the outdoor area.
Okay.
Only the outdoor area.
And if the first rental group, left a mess or damages, how would you know which group?
Well, since you know that if you have a permit and you rented it, someone should probably check after they leave or while they're there or something to see if they did any damages.
Because our DPW leaves at 3:00, and the lady that cleans up doesn't come by, till it can be 8, 9 o'clock at night. So
Right. Well, I'm thinking that people aren't renting it because it is so expensive to rent it for the 7 hours. And for a birthday party, you don't need 7 hours to rent something like this. So it would be probably something that so those policies would always apply to any rentals of the parks and stuff.
I like your thought. I just have some questions with my staff how we would actually do that if I don't have anybody on staff at the time the
Right.
party switch. Yeah.
The first thing I wrote was like a mid-check. How would they validate that? And then that's requiring more manpower for sending somebody out to check it.
If you had people take pictures when they were done, or something like that. I don't know.
Right, that would be an
Just have to
option.
figure that out.
Right.
Another
But
thing
it's,
is,
yeah.
people like,
Unless we got more people, we have a problem with that now if there's multiple parties in a day, or if there's parties where we can't clean up the first one before the second one starts, or it's a problem right now because we don't have that many people.
Right. Well, I guess it would be a scheduling thing, so you could put a couple hours in between because it's only 3 hours. So let's say you're renting at noon, you're renting it for till 3. The next group couldn't come until 5 or something.
Again, they leave at 3:00. So
Right.
I don't hate the idea. It's something to entertain for sure.
Well-
Missing is Ken Wendell, though. You're not thinking the indoor one too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just did it. These are just examples.
Examples,
Right.
yeah.
You would this would apply to all of them, or particular ones. You could just do 2 of them if you want. You don't have to do all of them.
Because the last party I went to at Ken Wendell, they wanted to set up, and then the party was later. So it was like the caterer came and the decorations were put out, and they needed all that 7 hours to prep for the party and get all the things at the event. So if we broke it into 3 hours, potentially someone who wanted to have that time is now going to have to pay twice as much. You know what I mean? So that's something to think about too. A lot of people want the 7 hours because setup, party, take everybody
Do any
out,
other parks do
clean up.
this?
Not that I know of. Well, I just was thinking about this, so if you're asking them to, if they don't have a permit and you want them to have a permit, maybe make it less and make it for a shorter period of time. Like a birthday party, you just come in, you bring in your stuff, and you leave. You know, it's not like you're having huge amounts of food and stuff like that. It's just a,
Could have huge amount of, I've seen people
Well, yeah.
make them less
Well,
than 3 hours, you know, it's just
yeah.
as big as less as
mhm.
all day parties.
Yeah, well, I guess it's just a thought, it's just, if you were gonna make that policy where you have to have a permit to be there, this would kind of solve that a little bit. It's just a thought. So is there any more discussion on this pickleball facility stuff then? No? Are we all done then with that?
Can we lump this in with this, the pickleball and tennis courts, and then the rental pavilions? Could we put it together? I mean, and we can think it over a little bit longer and
Right.
maybe present next time whatever recommendations.
Right. Well, like even you guys, when you have a pickleball little party or whatever, and you have a big group there and stuff, you could take out a 3-hour, you're not there for 7 hours.
Yeah, but
It's
we
just
don't
a
really,
shorter
they
period
don't,
of time.
we've rented the pavilion for a picnic, but otherwise, we really are kind of just at the courts. We're not in the pavilions, because you're just going in and out off the
Oh,
courts.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's just a thought.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go, want to move on to D then?
Did we
Yes.
have in that policy that for one-time use, you could request from the Parks Commission use of the courts?
Mhm.
It's in the,
What?
right?
In the motion that was made earlier, yeah, you made a motion on both items.
And again, yes, lump this in, package it, let's review it, and put our thought behind it instead of just off, knee-jerk reaction. But Waukesha is starting to rent the golf courts 2 hours for $200.
That's crazy.
They are.
I
But
think
you
they
split
have
it up by
lighted
4,
ones
that's
too, yeah.
$50, 2 people, $25 an
hours?
hour. But what
And
if it
to
came
drive
with a
into their park, you have
What
to
if
pay
it became there with
$7
a
a day.
pavilion? You've got a pavilion and a thing for 2 hours. You could rotate in groups. You could actually have more than 4 people.
Is it one court
I'm just
for
saying,
$200? One court?
One
Or is
court.
it a grouping of
No,
courts?
it's not a grouping of courts. No.
Holy cow.
I'm not proposing that. All I'm saying is, like, it makes me want to think about your suggestion a little bit more because it is in our proposed policy that single use. And so if you were having a group, it wouldn't be a consistent group like a league, but if you were having a group that you wanted to confirm having a court, it would be a method for you to rent a court for a special event. Maybe you're having a birthday party and you want it to be a pickleball party,
Oh, yeah.
right? I'm just saying.
I
So
know,
I don't
I
hate
know.
the idea.
Right, right. It's just something to think about. It's, yeah, okay.
So
All right.
let's put it together and just say, table it for next month and keep providing comments. And then perhaps we'll have this remedied to match when we get funding for a software program. And then we would be ready to put the data into the system for
Right.
quicker delivery to residents who are wanting this.
Oh, and this here too, do we need to think about leaving some courts open? Like, there's 4 courts at Pleasant View, and, well, there were how many on the agenda? One wanted to rent it every morning, 5 days a week, from April through October. One wanted to rent it 2 nights a week, all 4 courts. We need to leave. I think it really needs to think. I think if it's not rec related, maybe a court or 2 has to be left open. There's going to be a lot more
certain
courts.
courts are not reservable.
Right, so that, because you'll just continue to get more complaints that I can't find any time, or unless you want to charge every time. So,
Okay.
A built-in first come, first serve
yeah, some
option
of them,
at
yeah.
each of our parks.
Yeah.
you for commission?
So we brought up this discussion at the previous meeting because there are a number of like administrative tasks that will come out of having the new permitting software, et cetera. Glenn and I sat down and had a partial discussion about some of the current task loads. So we need to get the band back together in terms of the parks staff working group to talk through what some of those staffing changes could look like, and then come back to you with like a realistic proposal. But it's in progress. That's my update. So,
Any questions on that? No?
So it's in progress as far as determining if there will be a director?
So the conversation that we had was about what are some of the tasks that are currently happening and in what departments, because that's kind of the ongoing issue. So it may not be that a director is the necessary person. It could be additional administrative staff or the reallocation of some duties. But especially if there's going to be new permitting software and the clerk's office is no longer responsible for that, who's going to be responsible for it? So we've had a conversation about that, but right now it's not clear what that role would look like. So we're sort of talking through what makes sense. And then some of the agenda and other items are probably going to move into DPW.
It doesn't sound right that it's all different places.
Right.
You need a director to,
Someone who is a central point of coordination. So,
there's too many loose ends that way.
yep, I completely agree. So
Could we put it in the recommendation in the budget for next year for a department director?
you could. You could make that recommendation. So, hang on.
Let's talk about it at the next meeting.
And what is it exactly? Discuss whether or not,
We should recommend a parks director.
Or manager?
a department director or
wanna
manager?
A city
Recommend the
position.
creation of a position for a parks director. Correct?
I mean, if it's something that you want to have a conversation about, funding is one way to have that conversation. So I will have a chat with the work group about this as well. So some of this is because functions have gotten spread out. You know, we have our own opinion about like what things could potentially move around, and then as the park system grows, you know, how does that work too in terms of staffing? So.
Certainly a point of contact would be.
So is the request for an agenda item at the next meeting for like a capital request for that or a budget request?
I think that's what you said.
Okay.
What do you mean, budget or capital? Kind of the same.
Yeah,
It would not be capital.
it would not be capital.
That would be for
Okay.
equipment and things
Capital's
like
for
that.
infrastructure and equipment.
And
So
anything over $5,000 or not? Is that it's just a different approach? This is not.
It has to
my
be put in
area.
the budget.
Yep.
So it's not in the budget. So personnel, because generally that's one of the first things that we're asked when we put together a budget. First thing we have to get in is a request for personnel. So someone would have to do a justification, write up why that's important to have a manager of recreation or manager of parks or whatever you want to call it. This person.
Park facilities
A paid for
manager.
city position.
Mm-hmm.
Probably an estimate on what types of qualifications, preferred job descriptions. So a new position would also have to go through personnel committee. Would have to discuss a job description and figure out what classification that this person should be slated compared to all the other positions in the city. There's a lot of work to add a position.
Does the city have a template for a regular plug in the verbiage that we want for a proposal with position description, responsibilities.
I don't think you'll find any templates, but we could probably pull up some examples of some other positions. I just had a conversation with a human resource person, and most of our positions are woefully outdated. And so I'm actually in the process right now to update my water sewer department and probably progress to get my DPW and engineering departments also updated, because of still references to unions and that sort of thing that have been gone for 10 years or more. So
Floppy disks in the IT department.
yeah, I mean, in all honesty, yeah, when you look at our admin assistant positions, it still refers to things that we just don't do anymore, and they have to do things that weren't even thought of back in the day. So
I can always do something. I can write something up. I've done that before, so.
Cool. Okay, great.
All right.
I can talk to Dana tomorrow and
On
ask for
E
some
then,
samples.
it's the 2023 and 2024 budget, Parks Commission request for information on parks finances.
My update on this item was that there was a CIP sheet submitted to the finance director for the parks budgeting software for the 2025 budget. And we'll have to put together a series of quotes about what the actual cost will be. Ideally, we will have a full budget discussion so that you guys can make your required report to Common Council about the overall parks budget at some point. I don't have an update about when that will happen, but we've had a little bit of discussion about having finance take a more active role in this commission as well. So my hope is that we can get that moving a little bit more smoothly among all the things we're trying to move more smoothly. So
I would also suggest that petition maybe the mayor for why this is important. I can tell you that as a department head, I know I've got, I think, more pressing needs, and I think every other department head would also argue the same kinds of issues of why they're understaffed and asked to do more than what they have and so forth. And my DPW department especially, I've been here 9 years, I think 9 years straight, I've been asking for more DPW people and haven't got one yet. So we keep getting higher and higher, but we're not firemen, so I don't get funded, if you will. But if you can make a case for it, I would suggest that petition powers that be. The mayor's the first one that actually looks at our budgets and he makes the initial pass at what he approves and doesn't approve.
Do we have another person here from DPW?
You do. This is Tom Ria, who's actually you're a light equipment operator, but also our city forester, our city arborist. So,
Okay.
so.
And the name is Tom what?
H.A.? Are
That's
you
good.
new? Are you new?
I've been with the city for 13 years.
Oh, you're not new. Yes, okay.
I think those are great points, and we can get after the parks that we're going to be growing.
Well, you know, and that's every year I make the case. You know, how much we've grown the parks, how much we've grown trails, how much we've grown other things, and I don't have additional people to take care of this. And you know, it's you almost want to throw up your hands sometimes and say, quit adding parks, because we just don't have the manpower to take care of them the way people are expecting them to be taken care of.
But with the way that we're putting houses in here, we have 500 on the last planning coming into and we're going to have to invest in those things. They're going to have to.
Every house pays a park impact fee, which is for more infrastructure for us to take care of, but it doesn't cover the additional manpower it takes to, I should say, person power it takes to take care of that.
But those are the numbers that we can get after to present as evidence for the reason. And like you said, those impact fees that are coming in from the new housing is going to contribute to a better quality of life, which is what we're all about here. So we can get after that with statistics and information on the housing and the monies that's coming in for those fees.
Yep, and I don't have a current report on the impact fees that are accumulated at the moment, but one of the capital requests from the planning department is to revised the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, which is the document that those fees are based on. That's in our 2025 budget. And this commission would be part of that process. So, you know, it's looking at what are the services that the city envisions for itself. Your previous parkland acquisition study that this commission worked on, Mary was definitely involved in that process. I don't remember who else of you were involved. But one of the comments that the impact fee study made, that study resulting in the purchase of the Southwest Park, is that the current staffing doesn't meet the demand for services with the parks as it is. So as we continue to add, there needs to be a thought process about that maintenance and just ongoing staffing. So because you cannot pay for staff with impact fees, it's just for the physical infrastructure. So
If we can get a graph that shows the growth of the DPW and the growth of the city and put them in comparison, it might be a visually stimulating justification for us to present.
That'd be great. I've tried every visual I can think of.
Red light, green light, right? I mean, I feel for you. I think any government worker would agree that there's more jobs and less people to do them, and so you're just telling the same people, oh, I don't have enough people to do all the jobs. Nobody has enough people to do any jobs right now. It feels like, and so you know, being logical and statistical about our presentation to justify it, I would be very interested in helping to do that.
I mean, it's getting to the point we can't effectively fight most, I should say, not all, but some snowstorms because guys they're only allowed on the road so many times, and there's only so much time to clear so many miles of road. So
Capturing the successes of the storms that we have then would be helpful for us too.
Okay, is there any more on that then? On the budget stuff?
Can I ask one question? Our top priority, has it been identified as the Kayla's Park?
So you did not make a set of recommendations for
We didn't.
2024.
Okay.
But I did convey that has always been, the previous recommendation has always been the top priority. is
I thought we
Kayla's.
did. Well, we filled out that, at a meeting, we
You
filled
did,
out.
but we never adopted one because of the turnover in the department. The meetings that would have had to occur didn't happen.
And then we didn't get the briefing either because of the vacancy.
Oh,
Is it possible to just identify one item as a budget priority for
2024 for this current
Yeah.
year. I mean,
because if we're looking at bids out already, it'd be nice to see it on the next agenda that we could say, yes, at a minimum, that's our priority for the funding that we get.
you are getting Kayla's flooring this year.
yeah.
We are getting it, so it
Yes.
has been identified already,
Yeah, he said they're having a meeting.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
Kayla's
no, they're having a
flooring
meeting
for
for
the-
bids, but not for funding, right?
No,
But
we
it was impact.
we're allowed to. No, it's not impact fees
Oh, okay.
because impact fees cannot pay for replacing
Existing, okay.
existing.
Yeah.
So no, so we have, I forget the number, but we do have money in the budget for Kayla's flooring. We went to Common Council, got permission to bid it out. When we come back, assuming the bids are under, something we can afford, or they can find money from somewhere else to supplement it, that should get done this year.
Yeah. You could take a motion to reiterate that has been your top priority, but you didn't make recommendations last year.
Do we bring that thing back that we filled out? We said 2024, we had checked the ones that we prioritized?
Yeah, so at this point, it would be, you can make recommendations to amend the 2024 budget. So we talked about possibly doing the software. In terms of where we are with doing that work,
What happened to that paper? I mean,
just-
it's like we all voted on this should be done in 2024, and then we said future years for the others. It's like, does somebody look at that to say this is what?
yeah, so those recommendations are part of the record of the commission, and then
Okay.
we'll come back for your future budget process as like, this is what happened in 2024. But so that you guys understand what happened with your process, there were 2 meetings that you guys didn't have.
Yeah, I think 3.
Was it 3?
Yeah, there was 3.
So this is so awkward. Okay. So in August, the planning manager left abruptly, and the other planner went on paternity leave a week later, and so it was just me in the department, and it was not possible to do all the things. And so that record exists, and I have maintained it, and I'm trying to pursue the budget process for this year, coordinate that with DPW, et cetera, but your recommendations were not conveyed to Common Council because there was no staff available to do that.
So, so maybe we didn't do the full list, but there was, like Kayla's Playground, we did get that in the budget for this year.
So DPW did do the budget.
We did put money in the budget for various pickleball courts and resurfacing tennis courts, and those are put there. There is in the budget a 5-year capital plan that puts things far out, starting in 25, 26, 27, and 28.
So your previous year recommendations are reflected in that.
So we've been trying to keep that updated, but we will update that again this coming year.
So the pickleball courts, you said that they don't do something that you're redoing, but these were tennis courts, and if they're brand new pickleball courts, can you use impact fees?
If it were a brand new court, I would say so. If you're converting a tennis court to a pickleball court, I don't know if I could argue that with a straight face.
It's like a renovation.
Yeah.
Be considered
Yeah.
Okay, I would just think, well, we don't.
I think, no offense to pickleball people, but I think pickleball is close enough to tennis courts that I don't think I could argue that they're different enough.
They're also not in the court. So, like, as a separate facility, we've been using.
Oh, that's right,
Racket
they're not
Sports
in
as a-
there. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So yeah, your recommendations did not get incorporated directly into that budget process next year, though.
Okay.
And I really
officially, but
yeah, but
somewhat absorbed through another budget process
Right.
in the city.
And we because of the concern about spending impact fees, we have been trying to put as many projects on the table that we can fit in the budget for the matches. So a lot of trail projects. That's why we've been looking at those trail projects and possibly park acquisition issues
Good.
and development of Water Tower Park and some of those things. So things are happening in the parks. It's not like it's being forgotten. We just, like all budgets, we just can't afford everything we'd like to have.
yeah, and it's when a project is coming forward, it comes to this commission for your feedback and input on the site plan, that kind of thing. So, I mean, you are still having that level of input, and in this coming year, the goal is to again reactivate that capital improvement input process so that it's actually happens. Just you didn't put forward a list last year, so. I do have a little bit on the parks marketing materials, if we're ready to move on.
Sure, let's do that then. So that's F, Parks Marketing Materials.
Yep.
Park Amenities, Donation Policy, Park Marketing Materials, including maps, pamphlets, etc.
Yep, so at long last, your marketing materials went to Common Council for their feedback, and they really liked them. And I will just go through my notes from that meeting. So just general positive feedback, and thank you for your efforts on this. There was a comment about updating the hours of City Hall in the item, which I think Commissioner Malecki already did. And then a recommendation so they did not make a budget allocation for printing. So they did recommend, once it's complete, posting it on the city website, and the rec department is also willing to display it on their website as a linked document, much like the parks. But there was a thought that perhaps this and the map, that you could approach the Tourism Commission to collaborate on publishing those items as a printed item. So the recommendation they made was that there would be a few copies available at the clerk's office and then on demand, but if there's a larger printing effort, to take that request to the Tourism Commission, and then also just to speak to them about the possibility of them also publishing and using this information to help market the city. So I did ask that item to be placed on the Tourism Commission's agenda. Their next meeting is, it is the 21st. Sorry, my phone
This
died.
month?
Yes. So their next meeting is at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 21st. So it's conflicts with Common Council, so I will not be able to be there. But I was hoping that perhaps one of the commissioners. Well, okay.
It's my birthday.
Yay.
What time is it at?
6 p.m. So I'm going to give you the card for John Regitz is the Economic Development Director and the city of staff member assigned to that commission.
Okay.
So if you have materials, I gave him a previous version of the materials that you gave me, so he hasn't seen the stuff from today. But if there's stuff you want him to put in the packet, he's the person to coordinate with.
Okay,
Is
beautiful.
this the packet?
Yes. Yes, and I did get. Oh, go ahead.
We wanted a big printing of it to go in at each park, to be posted at the parks.
Of the map.
You know, Dale, at least at
Of the
Franklin
parks.
Woods, they have those wood things.
Of the map or of the whole brochure?
I thought the
No.
map, the big
I think
map.
the parks, the different parks.
Yeah, the one with the little icons and the description of each park on the side, right?
Right,
Bigger than 8 by 10.
yes.
Right. Well, it's originally 11 by 7. 11
Yeah,
by
it was
17.
big, yeah.
Yeah, we can make it any size we want.
So we're not going to have one that's printed, that's going out in the newsletter?
No, so I did get a quote from the assistant city administrator about that. There wasn't funding allocated to it at this time, so again, that's something that would be appropriate to incorporate in our budget request. But they
How
didn't.
much does that cost?
It was a few $1,000s. I don't remember off the top of my head, but because it would be 11 by 17 in the middle of the.
Yeah.
Right, it'd be a spread.
Yep, and if it's full color, the current printing is single color. So full color would add to the cost if we were to pursue that. So
Okay. Also, to get this printed, I did get some prices from different printers.
okay,
Only because I work with different printers, or I have before. And I was thinking like to get like 250. I got quotes on 250 and 500 for just this thing, and 4 color. And the best quote came in. Let me see who it was from Print and Press. That's kind of like in Milwaukee
By the
there, on
airport.
Howell there, yeah. And for 250 copies, it was $347. For 250 copies, yeah. And then for 500, it was $649.
okay,
Where would these packets go?
Well, it would just go like to the clerk's office, and yeah, so they could hand them out or whatever.
The
so-
library might be a good place
Yeah, the
for 'em.
libraries you could put them in
Yep.
and stuff like that. So
so one thing I should note is one of the reasons that Tourism Commission was suggested as an option was because they have their own funding, so they can make it, could potentially collaborate to spend some money to get
good.
nice things printed. So it's not the only option, and I would suggest that maybe you look at marketing as an item to recommend for next year, but for this year, they're a little bit more liquid. I don't know if that's the right way to put that.
right. So
So
you're saying I should bring these up
Mhm.
okay with them? Good. All right. So also like I would come back to the city newsletter thing. I did not get a quote from the House of Correction, and I know that some people use them and stuff. But I think the reason you had mentioned that you didn't get any response from them last time.
it was, I think, Andrea from DPW. I don't remember. I haven't worked with them directly.
Right. Well,
Um,
I think the story behind them is they have a whole new staff in there, in their printing department, and they're just doing Milwaukee County printing now.
For the
They're not
county.
doing any outside printing anymore.
Okay.
So, in regards to your city newsletter, because I do all those rec departments, those guides, I don't know if you've seen those before, like Franklin used to do them. I always use American Litho, which a lot of cities do all over. And it's to do like if they're web press printing, which is different than your normal offset printing. I know this is like, but the reason they're web press is because they can do it real fast, kind of like a newspaper kind of a thing, and
Yep.
they're a little bit less to do big. So like if you have a lot of pages, and they can do 4-color, like probably for what you were paying for your 1 or 2-color little thing that you were doing.
I'm not sure who the city uses for the
They
newsletter.
use the House of Correction.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm wondering, like, who are they contacting? Because I'm pretty sure they're
Yeah.
not doing that anymore. Like, do they have some special deal happening? But I think that you guys should maybe get another quote on that. I would like to talk to somebody about that, just to, so you can, it'll look much nicer when you do it. Like, I got a quote from American Litho for this, but it's just not big enough, like 250, 500 is not a big enough run for them to do because they do thousands of them.
And you're talking for the newsletter.
Right,
To get more quotes.
Right.
So we were published in the June 2023, right? Where they
Right.
put the blurb, and then they had the QR code, which takes you to the website. So there is a paper list,
Right.
access. Is this something that we could get into another newsletter, this small paragraph?
Yep.
Maybe a repeat because it's been a while?
Oh, for the map.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
so it goes to the website when you scan the QR code,
Yeah.
and it actually goes to the Parks and Recreation website, which is my favorite, and then it's still marked new, and you've got the Franklin Parks and Trails, and courtesy of the Parks Commission, you click on that, and then the map does come up. And I have got comments from random people that they have accessed it through this, and prefer that to paper. They like paperless, but it would be really nice if we could get a limited amount and stage them in strategic locations,
I agree.
and then also perhaps add the QR code to the document, so if somebody's
Takes
looking
you
at
to the
it,
website.
then they can see that there's an online version. If I'm at the library, sometimes I take a photographic memory picture of something so that I can remember later to look at it. It's a lot easier to market and promote a QR code than to print color copies and then have them go into somebody's recycle bin and become a legal bonfire. Right?
All right.
Is that it?
That's all of your stuff.
The motion to adjourn.
Did you
I'll
just make a
second?
motion?
You made it, Marion?
Yeah.
I will second that.
And I wanted to apologize. My eyes have been really funky lately from my MS. Like, I can't even read this anymore out there. Yeah, I've been straining them too much, so I'm serious. I'm having a hard time reading things just lately, but MS is like a killer for me sometimes.
I didn't know you had that.
Yes. So that's why I'm like, oh shit, I can't even read that.
Sorry.
I had trouble too.
Yeah, so I apologize.
Yeah, I can make it like this big. Is this better?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird, but I just.
Yeah, it's because
I
the
just
angle
wanted to
is
explain
awkward
why I was
too.
Just, like freaking out because even with my glasses, I was having a hard time. Yeah,
You did great.
no, not really.
Can I just say you vote aye for closing the meeting
Oh,
also?
okay.
Just so we have it,
Everybody
sorry.
good with this
Right.
voting